I counted to 3 in my head.
You're funny.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, Kaylee, how are you?
Fantastic. I am very excited about what we're getting into today.
Same.
One, because I'm passionate about managing our time effectively, but also if it's, again, a request from a listener, I'm just warmed by the fact that people are listening. I'm just,
Exactly. We're happy to adapt and respond and sort of give people what they're looking for because the whole point of this is to help people be more effective in work and life.
yes. And so here's what happened. I had a leader reach out and say, listen, I love what you're talking about. I find it very helpful. I just do not have enough hours in the day. That's what they said.
Hmm.
But I'd love to be spending more time figuring out what's really motivating my team to make sure that they feel seen, to make sure they feel heard. But I'm at nonstop meetings back to back, and I don't have the ability to do that, which prompted me to think, why don't we talk about how you actually get time back in your week, in your day to day to utilize some of these things that we're discussing, because I think we can make it really practical. Fo-
Yes.
Focusing on the fact that I don't actually think it's a time management problem.
Right. Right.
I
That's
think,
the twist. We don't think it's
yes.
actually the time management problem. We think it's a little different than that. Yep.
Yeah. I think
Perfect.
it's the decisions that we're making and what are the ways we could make better decisions to make sure we're utilizing our time more effectively. And
Yes.
so we have three things that we can work through. I'm going to give a little teaser of the parts that I want us to talk through if that works for you.
Perfect.
Number one is about protecting our time, what that looks like and how to do it. Number two is around delegation in a way that actually works.
Right. Yeah.
Not
Because
just
people will say delegation. It's all I hear
yeah,
about my whole career. Delegate, delegate. We'll
I
talk about
delegate
the
all
way
the
to really
time.
do it.
Let's get into what that actually means. And then the third part is about proactive planning. So how do I get in front of the work so that I'm not bogged down by everything feeling like it's urgent and immediate and there's severe consequences. So those are kind of the three buckets I think we could play in.
Love it.
Okay. Protecting our time as a start.
Yep.
For me, Joe, it's not about doing more. It's about protecting what matters from everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. The first step of not losing time is protecting the time you have, right? It's like time, it's almost like time slippage. The time slips away into other things.
And if everything is urgent, everything's important, everything my time is in all being pulled in all these places, then you're just constantly reactive.
That's
There's
right.
no there's no potential for being proactive. So, tactics associated with how to protect your time. What do you have? What are the Joe best practices on your list or how you think this has been actually helpful for you?
Yeah. I'll start with, I have two ideas to start with
Okay.
here. And one is locking in those things that you absolutely want to protect. So, some organizations even do it. Some organizations have implemented this where they say like no meetings before 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. So
Mhm.
if people start at 8 or 9 a.m., they know that the first hour, like meetings are off limits. And I think that's something I kind of implemented in my own work, but not the time of day, just the types of things where I locked in certain time that was protected. So I wasn't going to move it. I wasn't going to change it. I just like these meetings can't be moved, even if it was meetings with myself. It was because you time block your own work to
Mhm.
prevent that time from being taken up by more meetings. And it's like
Yes.
eventually managers and leaders tend to be in meetings more than anything else. So when do you actually get the work done? So blocking that time off worked for me. And the other meeting technique was, a couple of times we got pulled into team meetings where we found out the room we had booked was like double booked. So we only had 30 minutes instead of an hour. And somehow we got everything done in 30 minutes. So I think we did that Paul principle where we filled the time with the work Is that the Paul principle? I think it is.
We'll go with
And
it.
then we realized, so we started to think, what if we just intentionally did that and forced our meetings to accelerate, see how we did? So we
Right.
experimented with some shorter meeting times. Maybe going from an hour to 45 minutes gives people that time in between to have the conversations they need to have. You're not running to the next meeting and always feeling like you're late. So those two things, blocking time for the work itself and
Mhm.
shorter meeting times, always helped me. How about yourself?
Okay, I'm gonna start with energy
Okay.
because
Love it.
I don't know about you, but there are just certain times throughout the day where I can feel my energy rising or at its peak, and there
Yep.
are some significant drop-offs. And what I learned early on was to not schedule my important one-on-ones right after the lunch break.
Hmm. Hmm.
What I and that's for me personally because from an energy standpoint, right? The flow, I'm just very aware that between 10 and 12, sweet spot.
Hmm.
Okay. Between, for me, 1 and 3. So we're just on the outside of my sweet spot here, Joe. So lucky you, you're not getting me at full energy, which can also be strategic, actually, for some of my more analytical team members or maybe more introverted clients. I will purposely schedule outside of my energy level for
Mm.
their benefit. So how do we, honestly, how do we drop it down a notch? Or if I am facilitating or we're trying to engage in a more back and forth interaction mode, I will try to purposely block in the time where I know I'm going to have high energy.
Mm.
It's we need all the help we can get in some of those
Yeah.
moments.
No, I love that. The biggest key there is just your self awareness and intention. So you
Hmm.
can't do either of those things if you're not self aware and you don't act with intention and you let the day manage you and it takes away from all that because it's like you're just going with whatever's on the calendar. You made me
Yes.
think of another energy
Okay.
thing, though, is know the types of meetings that energize you and the types of meetings that are more draining or the type of work that's more draining. You know,
Hmm.
work can't be all unicorns and rainbows. So we're going to have moments where we feel drained and we're not feeling, there's a difference between feeling exhausted because it's a destructive environment or a dysfunctional thing or just drained because it's not your natural energy. I'm talking about the natural energy. You have the ebb and the flow of, I love doing this, time flies, I'm energized. I don't enjoy this as much. Time kind of drags. Be careful filling your day with too much of the same thing. Drag, drag,
Hmm.
drag, drag, drag. Because then you start to feel like that's all I do. So if you kind of mix it up with, hey, this was a bit of a drag and this was a boost and this was a drain and this was a boost, you have a little bit more natural flow of like feeling energized and then maybe draining a little bit. And it's like think of your battery. They always say like your phone battery shouldn't be below 10% because you start to the battery won't go back up to 100 eventually. Well, maybe in your life the same thing is true. If you keep depleting yourself over and over again, it's really hard to get back to 100. And taking a weekend off, to go to a resort is not enough to get that battery back up to 100 because the first day you get back, it's drained again. So think of your energy and managing that really carefully and thoughtfully as much as you can.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call because in reality, you might not always be able to do that. I can't
Right.
necessarily purposely book a meeting when I'm not the one running it, but I know it's going to be
Yes.
training, but they blocked it at a time when I already have low energy. I get that. That's
Yep.
reality. But the moments where you can do it, even
Exactly.
if it's just once a week, where
That's right.
I know this is going to require a lot of battery power, I will
Right.
really try and ask or push to have it scheduled between 10 and 12. I, even if it isn't, I've started acknowledging that with the people on the other end.
Yeah.
I will say, I just want to preface this by saying, you're getting me at a 6 out of 10 energy, and I'm going to do my best to ramp through this.
Right.
But sometimes I just acknowledge that right off the bat, just to be able to protect myself in that way too. If we're talking about protecting your time, I think it's okay to own it, you know?
And what about after? Maybe you can't control when you attend a meeting or do work that drains you. What about those moments you can control afterwards? What are you doing with that time? So are
Yes.
you like doubling down on your pain by doing something voluntarily draining? Or are you taking that walk around if you work on a corporate campus or outside the building? If you work from
Mhm.
home, you're taking a walk outside your home or around your home, around your yard, somewhere. Do something to bring the energy back because the cumulative effect, it's like doubling down creates a bigger drop in energy, if you know what I mean. It's easier
Definitely.
to recover when you're at half battery versus when you're at 10%. So don't get too low, because then guess what? You're going to start thinking, I don't even care anymore. I'm just miserable right now because I'm
Yeah.
so drained. So keep
It's
the energy kind of in the middle as much as you can.
it's a slippery slope otherwise, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
There's the to-do list that we often focus on a lot, but
Yep.
what about the not do list?
Yeah, exactly.
For me, a
Exactly.
tactic I've tried for protecting my own time is to consciously ask myself the question, is there anything I'm doing that I shouldn't be? I
Yes.
mean, in the grand scheme of things and all the tasks that we have on the go, is there anything that I shouldn't be doing? Which does lead us into our next one for delegation.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I didn't plan that transition, but I just nailed it. I just
You did nail
realized
it.
that I
You nailed
didn't
it. I
mean
mean,
to.
it couldn't have
Happening.
been written any better. That was perfect.
It
Let's
just
just
kind of
bask in the glory of a smooth transition right there.
sorry. I shouldn't have acknowledged that. I should have acted like I knew what I was doing there in that moment, but I didn't. And then I thought,
Authenticity
huh,
is a calling card, though. So I love it.
there we go. Okay. Delegation. Stop the bottleneck.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's the
We
phrasing I
found the
have
bottleneck,
after
and
the
the
word.
bottleneck is you.
Yes. You might not realize it, but for me, delegation is not about getting things off your plate, which a lot of people think that's what it is. How do I get this stuff off my plate? And I really don't think that that's what effective delegation is. I think it's more about how do we build capability in others in a way that stops that work from coming back to you.
Mm, yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that Does that sound
Yeah.
right? It's less about going, how do I get this stuff? I get someone else to do the work. It's going, how do you give away that which will build others up in an outcome that results where it's not no longer coming back to you because they're already doing it. There's like a real
Yeah, I
benefit.
think you're right, because it feels like that's like stage one of delegation. Why? Because stage one of leadership is you were just promoted. People aren't born
Mhm.
into leadership, they're promoted into leadership. So, guess what? The person who's just promoted into leadership was really good at the last job. Hopefully, they're good at leading people too, so they didn't get promoted just for technical expertise. But assuming they were really good at the last job, they're going to hang on to stuff, or stuff's going to come to them naturally because only they could do it that well. So to your
Hmm.
point, it's like, when does that stuff stop coming to you as the natural resting point for it? It's when you say, hey, let me show you how to do this so that you can do it on your own. I'm coaching someone right now who keeps getting brought back into his old team
Hmm.
when his replacement, who took over for him, is not there. The team can't do it without one of the leaders there, either the former leader or the current leader who's out of the office. So he's got to go back to his old spot and help them out every time his replacement is out of the office. So
Hmm.
somebody's got to take the time to develop the team so that when the boss is out, he doesn't have to get back to his old role, because it's counterproductive for the whole organization. Because guess what? His priorities fall through the cracks. And he told me in our last session that we had to have a conversation specifically about, when is this like good compromise and when is it sacrifice? When are you sacrificing your own work to do the work of
Yeah.
others, where you might have to draw a hard line and say, I can't come back anymore. You got to figure this out without me, because my work's going to fail,
Yes.
or fall through the cracks. So there's a real time example that I'm coaching an executive through right now.
I can appreciate that because that is not uncommon. And
Right.
it goes through all levels of leadership. We miss. How about this? Here's when I think it fails. What you're talking about here is a piece of that. When the outcome that we're trying to achieve is not clear,
Hmm.
when the deadlines are not realistic or clarified with the rest of the team or the people involved, there's no success criteria established for how do we know that we actually achieved the project or the goal.
Hmm.
The biggest mistake that I see people making on this one is we don't tell the person how much we will be involved in the task
Hmm.
after
Yeah.
we give it to them.
Right. Right.
There's a we go, here, take, even if you hit, here's the outcome, here's the project deadlines, and then we forget to say, and by the way, I'm a bit of a control freak and I will probably be asking you for an update every day and giving you
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
because I can't let go. We don't we're
Right.
not often
Right.
articulating that part to
And what
people.
about the part of, well, why does delegation have to be so binary? So why
Yes.
can't it be, I'm going to delegate this to you, but not entirely. Here's how it's going to start. It's going to start with you do 20% and I do 80%. And then we work together and like make it a gradual handoff. Cause I'm actually coaching someone else on delegating stuff. And his challenge is twofold. It's one, that it's going to take a while for them to be able to do it. And two,
Mm,
they need to delegate to their team so that they have more capacity so I can delegate to them. So he's working on the conversations with them to say, hey, what do you, I told him, I said, the sentence you ask yourself is this something only I can do? If it's something only I
good.
can do, then I own it. If it's not only me, then somebody else can do it. And the question is, why aren't you handing it off? And there's a variety of answers. And it doesn't mean hand off everything to others. It's
Hmm.
simply saying, these are the things I can absolutely hand off to others. And let me make some good choices now. And one of those
Yes.
choices is, can they do it without overwhelming them, or do they have to hand something off to their team? So work through that. The other thing he's dealing with is,
Mm,
do they have the skill and capacity to do it, or do I have to train them and do it gradually? So 80-20, 50-50, 80-20, they're doing it, and then they're doing it 100% of the time over the
mm.
course of weeks or even months on something more complex. But some people think, I can't delegate it until I can hand you the whole thing. Just do it piece by piece.
Yeah. I would add to that then because I really like that. As long as we also answer what decisions are yours and what decisions are mine
Yes,
then.
yes, yes. Yes,
You know,
delegation doesn't mean I'm turning over responsibility, ownership, and authority. Responsibility could be one. Ownership, I still own it. I'm delegating to you, but I'm responsible. And then authority is I get to make the calls on what the outcome is and the goals are because I'm still the leader. We can collaboratively discuss it, but I didn't hand you the keys and say now you take it around the track on your own. There's still some stuff that I'm holding on to that makes sense given my role in the organization.
I think that's the part that's really important to say out loud verbally. So
Yes.
everyone, there's no ambiguity there. We're not you giving me a task and a week later I make a decision and you go, just kidding, I'm actually going to go this direction. Well, now I feel like
Right.
crap going, why did I bother if he was just going to
Yes.
decide? And it happens
Yes.
all the time, even
Yeah.
with the best of intentions. So if you can get in front of it and be really clear who's going to be responsible for what decisions when ultimately, then it prevents the frustrations from occurring later on, I think.
You know what that's a great point. And you know what I'm noticing in all these things we're providing? It's like sometimes how work actually works is like sort of subverting the workplace and saying, no,
Mm.
there's a whole other subculture or something. And other times it's saying it's not as simple as you think. So, how work actually works is saying delegation isn't taking a bundle of work and handing it off to another person. Delegation involves thinking about all these dynamics at the same time and figuring out the flow of it so that it works for both of you and so that there's absolute clarity and it feels collaborative and it feels rewarding to the other person. Because when you miss some of these checkpoints, when you miss oh, I'm sorry, that's my call, not your call, boom, the person feels a sense of threat and they feel like you're punishing them. Or when you still hang on to 50% of it because you know they're not ready to do 100% and you don't explain that, they feel a sense of threat that you don't trust them or you're micromanaging. So do yourself a favor and be really clear on what you are doing and not doing with any delegation and communicate it more than you think you need to.
Hmm. And if you're listening to this wondering, I don't know if I'm good at delegating then based on all of that. Here's one way you could tell. If your team continuously comes back to you after you've quote unquote delegated the task or the project, if they are continuously coming back to you, more and more questions, checking in, do you approve of this? Then you you didn't actually delegate. You more rented the task out. You
Ooh,
know?
yeah, yeah,
Is that
right,
does that
right,
make
right.
sense as I'm saying that?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
no, it does. It does. Yeah.
It
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. It's like, no, you kept too many sort of claws in the work for it to be a true delegation. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're
good.
just that's in my
That's
head. I
good.
was you're gonna just rent in the space,
I
okay?
like
You
that.
didn't
Yes.
actually
Yeah.
that might be
Yeah.
a way to tell how
Yes.
where you're at in terms of your ability to do this and
I
to let
like it.
oh my gosh. Then, okay, that kind of actually will lead into if we think about delegation as a tactic overall, it
Mhm.
does fit into this third big bucket was which is really more this paradigm, the idea of being proactive when it comes to planning.
Right.
And if your calendar is full of other people's priorities,
Mm.
then you are just living in reactivity. Like it is not,
Yes.
you are no longer in control of your destination. And it
Yes.
happens all the time because we love it. Because I'm going to say we as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as business people, we get this addiction. I'm going to call it an addiction to crisis, to
Yeah.
urgency, to
Yeah.
problem solving.
Right. Because it feels more important. We're
Yeah,
important
very
if things
important.
are urgent, right?
Yes, when you finish the day, you finish the week and you go, "Oh my gosh, I put out so many fires, I solved so many problems. I took care of ABC. I also helped John and Sally with their issues." So I go back and forth, and it
Right.
even though it can be exhausting and even though it can lead to burnout, we a lot of us really thrive on that.
Oh
That's how
yeah.
I feel a sense of achievement, right?
That's right. It's confusing hyperactivity with achievement. It's
Yes.
like if you can run in place and exhaust your body physically and move nowhere. And that's what sometimes work is like that. Like you can jog in place at full speed, sort of, just like running in place ridiculously, going nowhere. That's how your work can feel sometimes.
There was
And,
this
and let's not forget if I go to a lot of meetings, I worked in organizations where I witnessed this over and over again. When people rise to a certain level, they get to go to more important meetings
yes.
and they view it as a status symbol. Like, I'm so important, I get to go to all these meetings. And they no longer look at the meeting objectively and say, should I be there? Number one, am I there just for the status? And why aren't I sending people from my team to participate when they could do it too, so that I can free up more time for myself? So drop the status of being important
Mm.
and being at all, FaceTime in all the right places. Build your credibility, yes. Recognize that in the workplace, there is a political part of it that we have to deal with. And also give your people exposure and let them go to some of these meetings so they get time in front of others, get to show their skills. And guess what? In a great organization, that comes back to you. In a great organization, they say, Joe did a great job in there, and that's because KayLee is such a great leader and preparing him for that. And what a great team over there. In a toxic organization, you're going to feel threat that that person is now going to be getting more face time than you. And well, then you might be in the wrong company. If that matters that much, where you don't get credit for developing good people, reevaluate perhaps where you are.
I think that's fair that status is a part of the motivation there, coupled
Yeah,
with this sense of satisfaction that gets attached to doing more. It
right.
reminds me of a comic book, back in the day when we used to have comic books. I don't even know if
Yes.
it's a thing anymore. There was this comic strip, and it had two people driving in a vehicle. And the one guy is holding a map, and the other guy is driving, and the speedometer says 100 miles an hour. And the person holding the map is looking at it and says, I'm pretty sure we're going in the wrong direction. And the other person says, who cares? We're making great time. And
That's
I thought,
beautiful.
that
Yeah.
just describes so many organizations
Oh my
I've
God.
either
Absolutely.
been a
Yeah.
part of.
Yeah,
Where
right, we're making good time, great, but we're heading right for the iceberg.
yeah, it's hard to see when you're in it. And this is where I would introduce my Bermuda Triangle analogy here, because
Yeah,
I think what happens is we get addicted to our own sense of urgency important. Everything feels urgent, everything feels important. We get pulled into that which is maybe not as important to us, but it makes us feel like we are, and it's
mhm,
solving other people's problems. To the point where we have one day off. We go, I can't take it anymore. I need to reset. I need a break. And people move into this quadrant of waste and excess. We move into, I'm going to watch 8 episodes of Netflix in my pajamas eating Cheetos. That's just a random example I came up with. And you do that for the one day off that you have until what sets in? Like, what is it, Joe, that starts to set in after you spent your one day off just
Oh,
completely
yeah, yeah,
disengaging?
the dread of wasting all that time.
Yes, the guilt. The
Yes,
guilt hits us so strongly. What do? We check our email before we go back to it's Sunday, we check the email before I'm just
right.
gonna take a look. I'm just gonna look at
Yep,
what's
yep,
happening this
right.
week, and, oh, there's a quick answer I can give, so I'm gonna go ahead and answer that.
Yes.
Because we're trying to pull ourselves out of that feeling of guilt from what we did with our time that we
Yeah.
had. So it pulls us right back into urgent, important, everything. And
Mhm.
so I'm just realizing the people at on that are listening can't see me doing the hand gesture that showcases this triangle
Yeah,
of other,
right.
but imagine it. Your
Yeah.
priorities, other people's priorities, and then we completely disengage and then we ramp right back up into it.
Right.
The idea of stepping away from that and thinking proactively and thinking, what could I spend my time on that isn't urgent, but is
Mhm.
very important? And how could I purposely block time to do those activities so that things feel less urgent? And
Yeah.
that takes a real conscious effort
It
to do that.
does, it does, because it's setting aside the sort of busyness, kind of the busyness epidemic of like, if we're busy, we're important and productive, versus what are my priorities and what are we trying to accomplish big picture. To your point, when you talk about like the big rocks, right? What are the big rocks I'm trying to move? Why don't you talk about that? Because I think that's an important point of this.
Yes. The idea of focusing on that which is not urgent takes a conscious effort because these things are not in your face. It's my father who ignores the fact that his ankle is bothering him because he wants to go skiing for one more day in a row. It's not a big I'm just going to cuz I want to he wants to do so he goes skiing until yesterday calls can't get out of bed. Guess
Mm.
what? He's got a fracture in his ankle.
Oh
And
no.
now it is urgent
Yeah.
because he ignored it. It wasn't urgent until then. This is why people will not put the focus on the relationships because
Yeah.
we go, oh, they're going to be there tomorrow. It's why we
Yeah.
don't focus on
We'll
our
have a
health.
retreat once a year and we'll solve all our relationship
Yes.
problems at work.
Yes. We'll just do it then when it's
Yeah.
already booked and we have the budget
Yeah.
for it.
We'll have a pizza party someday before my top performers leave.
Yes. Yes, exactly. This is where I'll worry about those one-on-ones next month. We don't have
Right.
time for them today. And
Right.
so it gets pushed off. And therefore, everything else that's happening feels urgent. So how everything is.
Yeah.
The I'm pulling from a Covey reference here. I won't claim any of this as my own framework, but I do love the thought process behind planning big rocks. So here's what I
Mhm.
mean and what it looks like. Weekly planning is a great way to get in front of this because it's the perfect snapshot of time. You
Mhm.
have work days, weekends, you've got hours of working, you've got additional off-site, off-time hours. It's far enough out that you can still plan effectively, but it's close enough in that it still feels realistic. So I'm a big fan of the 7-day look.
Mhm.
And if you start by asking yourself, what are the most important roles that you play in the next 7 days? I mean, can we try this? I'm really putting you on the spot here now. We didn't plan for this, but even just as an example, I want to show
Yeah.
you how easy this can be, even or
Yeah.
for people listening. So if you think about the next 7 days
Mhm.
and all the roles that you have, because we have dozens of roles. You are,
Right.
where you're a father, you're a leader, some people we're dog parents, you're a
Yeah.
neighbor, all these roles. But if you were only to pick maybe the 3 or 4 roles that you have in the next 7 days that are the most important, what what would be one role, even just one as an example, that you have in the
Mhm.
next 7 days that's really vital?
How specific do you want me to be? Is it just within my business, a specific role?
Real specific. So I would
Okay.
say, for example, as an aunt, because it's
Mhm.
my niece's birthday in the next 7 days. So if I think about
Yes.
a role that's important, that's one that I would pick.
Yeah. Okay. So my important role within my own company and what I do is really um, planning and organizing, because it's that point of time on these two projects I'm working on where I have to get into the weeds of the details.
Yes. So your role as the consultant in the next 7 days doing those tasks is gonna be
Hmm.
really key, really important.
Right.
Okay. Then you ask yourself the big rock question, which is this: what is the most important task, the most important task that you can accomplish in that role in the next 7 days? Because
Hmm.
I'm sure there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
But to
Yeah.
really break it down to the one thing that has to get done, that is the most vital, the most important.
Yeah, it's finalizing the workbook that's going to be printed for the event. So that workbook
Perfect.
has to be finalized by Tuesday night, basically. So tomorrow night from this podcast recording. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you answer that question for each one of the, let's say, 4 roles that you determined in the next
Yeah.
7 days, you
Yeah.
answer that question and then you schedule it. You block it in. It does not move. You
Yes.
can't move it.
It's already
So
blocked on my
I
calendar
bet.
today.
I bet yours is. I bet yours
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah.
what will happen is even if you get people to do this, they will start with the work roles first.
Yes.
And what I encourage people to do is if you're listing out those roles, don't forget to write you as one of the
Yeah.
roles.
Yeah.
Meaning, what do you as a person need in the next 7 days? It's the most
Mm,
important thing for you as a person because that we write that off. We don't make time to
yes.
schedule that often. And
Right.
that's what I mean when I say proactive planning. I mean,
Mm.
start with yourself, home-based roles, work roles, and you don't want to pick more than 4. You don't want to get overwhelmed. Most important thing you can do in the next 7 days, block it, schedule it, because then guess what happens at the end of the week if you've done that?
I mean, I know I would feel pretty fulfilled by doing the things that mattered most to me and like I'm doing the right things. I have the right priorities.
And anything else that comes up that we go, "Oh, it's gonna fall through the cracks." Yep, it might,
It
but it
might.
is not the most important thing, so it's
Right.
okay.
Right. You didn't get distracted by less important things. I think that's the lesson
Yes.
there. We get
Yes.
distracted by less. Can I add something about the method of doing that? Because I didn't want to forget this. In the digital age of things, like I couldn't have more reminders on my calendar for the mundane to the really important. And when I say reminders, it's like the iPhone reminders app. And they have a new feature, by the way. If you're not using it, it's really
Oh,
useful. There's an urgency feature now. So you can create a dated and timed reminder that has urgent. So it creates an alarm and it won't disappear. So it's really good for
mm,
something that you have to do.
okay.
And even with all that technology, sometimes I just move things. I just move them. They pop up and I say, and then remind me in an hour, remind me tomorrow, remind me next weekend. So what I devised from this little company called Analog, not a promotion. This is not about their product at all. You can use any kind of card. I'm just mentioning it because these cards are pretty useful to me. It's a
Okay.
little set of cards that look just like this. And you put them on a little
Okay.
stand. You can't read them, but they're little note cards that have like little circles and lines, and it says next.
Hmm.
And it's exactly that specific, whatever's next for you. And alongside each circle and line, you just jot down the couple of priorities. I started using these things about 2 years ago when I started dreaming up what my business was going to be what my business would look like, the products and services, when I decided to write a book and what that was going to look like. And almost every day I had one of these cards on the little stand facing me that only had 2 or 3 things on it. And that became the magic for me to just get to the most important things, where all the digital reminders didn't matter as much as that. And that kind of changed my life in terms of my planning ability because I was so bad at it before. This is the
Hmm.
best I'd ever been. And I accomplished more maybe than I ever did in those like 2 years using a system. So it's not about the brand, it's not about the system, it's about the what are you going to use that works for you to keep that big rock in front of you? And that's what I used. I used a card. I wrote it down in pen versus like digital stuff that kind of is white noise for me.
I love that because whether it's the cards, whether it's the weekly planning, if we don't proactively plan your time, someone else will.
Yeah. Yeah. And even working for myself, I find myself drifting into other things and like working on the wrong priorities where I'd rather work on a new product idea than maybe work on the workbook that needs to be printed tomorrow. It's like, how do I
Yes.
really focus on the things that matter today more than anything else?
And that's as an individual. You can also apply this within your teams, within your organization,
Yes.
to have a real
Yes.
discussion about, are we focusing on that which matters most? And as a
Yeah.
team in the next 7 days, what are the most important things that we want to get done? And I
Yeah.
think those discussions can be incredibly powerful, not just individually, but with the people who are working with you. If you are
That's
crystal
right.
clear on what that is urgent versus important and how much time you're spending on it, it can alleviate a lot of stress.
You can create the whiteboard version of a card like that to say
Mm,
in the manager's office, have a whiteboard that has like the 10 priorities for the whole team. So if you could, you can have a fairly large team, but maybe they're only working on 10 big priorities for your type, whether it's a marketing team or a learning development team. You probably have 10 big rocks for that week, maybe across a dozen people on your team. So something to think about.
mm. Yeah, just to know. I like it. I've taken it to the extreme, of course, because I'm such a nerd for this stuff, but I'll even put it in the subject line of an email I'm sending out to say Q1 priority, meaning it's important and urgent, needs to be done in the next 24 hours. If
Nice.
something is not urgent but is really important, I'll say effectiveness quadrant Q2, which means
Yeah.
it's not urgent, but it is important. And so I you could take it to the extreme in
Oh, you
different
don't mean
ways.
quarters of the year. You mean quadrants, right?
Correct. I mean,
Yeah. So,
yes.
envision a box with four quadrants and urgent
Yes.
and important being the axes, right? That's what you're talking about?
That's correct. Yes.
Yes.
That's my nerdiness coming through in my reference to the
Yeah.
time
So high
matrix.
importance and high urgency goes in the
Quadrant
upper
1,
right box. Yep.
upper left. Yeah. Upper left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Upper left. Got it.
Yeah. That's why it's the Bermuda Triangle, because bottom left has the appearance of urgence, but or importance, but is not. It's
Okay.
other people's priorities.
Okay.
And then not important, not urgent is the Netflix for 8 episodes. So that's where I get the Bermuda Triangle of time suckiness, which is a very polished professional way to talk about how people's
I
time is
love it.
being taken from
I
them.
love it. I want
So,
shirts that say that.
oh my gosh,
I
stay out of the
survived the
Bermuda
Bermuda
Triangle.
Triangle of suckiness.
Yeah. Basically, it's very important. So, okay, if we were to summarize all of this into our 3 T's, so a tip, tactic, or tool,
Yep.
I think my first one, I'm just jumping in there without
Yeah.
asking you, is the weekly planning reinforcement. If you do
Yeah.
nothing else, I would challenge you to just try it. Take
Hmm.
20 minutes before the week starts to just sit down, look at your calendar over the next 7 days, ask yourself, what are the most important roles I have to play in the next 7 days only? And then
Hmm.
what's the one thing, the most important thing I need to accomplish in that role this week, and block
Right.
it.
Right.
That would be my really, if I could double down on a tactic for somebody to try, that would be it.
And if you're interested in using an analog type thing where it's a card or something notebooky, don't do it for the day, do it for the week. Start slow. Say, for this week, what are my 5 priorities? Then maybe you'll work up towards daily priorities, but at least get the weekly priorities and the biggest rocks out of the way.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's number one. Number two, I want to talk about boundaries because
Okay.
people might think you work for yourself, it must be great. Well, if you have a jerk for a boss, you're in trouble. Number one. But number two, my time just kind of flows. So that means I will take some time in the middle of the day to do whatever I want, but then I'm working on something at midnight. And it's not
Mm,
like, oh my God, look at me, I work so hard, I'm grinding. No, it's basically I lose track that when am I working and not working? And it just flows. And I don't feel a sense of burnout, but I also worry that I'm just doing too much work all the time. And I have to be careful to
mhm,
balance it to make sure I'm not allowing myself to just drift. If I sit at my computer, I start looking at work stuff. So I just created a simple process for myself: no work Saturday. Saturday, I don't touch work. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do it on Friday. I'm going to do it even on Sunday. But Saturday, I need a day where I won't even open Outlook. I won't look at anything. And I just forget anything I'm working on so that I know I have one full day where I don't think about it. Because as a business owner working by myself a
mm,
lot, it's a risk that I just work 7 days a week. Even if it's not, 10 hours a day, it's
exactly.
still too much focus.
I really like that's a good one for you, Joe, personally. And I think that also will apply to other people who are even working for businesses because as an
Yeah,
entrepreneur, to your point, that's really hard when it's your whole business because it's your time and that's how you make your money and everything else. So I think
right.
it's really great that even if you have the ability to separate yourself and block off that day, there's no reason a director of finance can't also do that,
Yeah,
I
and
guess
I
is
hope
what
your
my
culture allows for it because some cultures don't even allow that. It's 24/7 responsibility.
but to your point then that's where the boundaries become even more vital to set
Yeah,
it, to showcase
yeah,
that this does not inhibit your promotion by setting boundaries on when you will or will not do the work.
right.
I think that's a really good tip.
Number 3.
Okay. I'm thinking of one around delegation.
Mhm,
I do think this is so helpful if people do it properly. That if you are thinking to yourself, well, the person on my team would do this 70% as well as I would,
mhm.
delegate it. That
Right.
means the other 30 is just your ego. You know? That's
Right,
just
right,
your ego.
right. Yeah,
If
it's
you're
like,
thinking
I mean, I'm always gonna do it better, so I'll never
yes,
delegate.
I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. That's a big hindrance
Yeah,
why we don't. We go, "But I could do it so much faster, better." You gotta ask yourself, if you believe, "I think Joe could do this at least 70% as well as I do," then let it go,
yeah.
because the other 30 is much more about you than it is the individual's ability.
And
I would
delegation should feel like development, so maybe it should be when they're 70% able to do it, because that's still your responsibility. Let's assume it's not just ego, because it's probably ego, but if it's not just ego, you gotta coach them up. You gotta coach them there. You have to develop them yourself and say, "Here's how you're gonna get to doing it exactly, not as the way I do it, but you're gonna do it at the highest possible quality with your way of doing it."
yes. I think if somebody would have given me these tips or tactics when I first started out in my career,
Yeah.
I think my own productivity engagement would have been substantial. I think it would have
Oh,
gone
yeah.
up even more so. We don't know until someone's laid it out for us, right? We just
Yeah,
say yes
yeah.
to everything. Yeah,
Every tip we mentioned, we either heard somewhere, we developed ourselves, but in most cases, we probably lived through it where we didn't do it the first time around. So
yes.
these are
Well,
tips that we needed ourselves. Trust me on this. None of this was like we got it right the first time.
exactly. Yeah, that's where I go. That's how we know it actually works.
Yeah, because when we
Tried it.
implemented these ideas, life got so much better.
Yes. The lessons we learn. Happy to share them, and I really appreciate you sharing as well. So much fun to chat as always.
Always. Thanks, Kaylee. Appreciate you.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Take care.